What's going on, everybody, man? You already know it's your boy, Uncle P, and this is the Cultivating Mature Positivity podcast. And family, today we're sitting down with a brother whose pen protects our culture, right? Stephen Hicks is a writer, a cultural historian, a truth teller who documents the stories, the moments, and the messages that shaped us, especially when the world wasn't really paying attention. He breaks down the intersections of hip hop, community, health, masculinity, and survival. And on this World AIDS Day, there's no better voice to help us understand how HIV and AIDS crisis impacted America, and how the album, like America is Dying Slowly, became a cultural warning shot. Stephen, thank you for joining us, brother. I appreciate it, man. How are you today?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Uncle P.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Stephen, I want you to take us back, man. What did it look like for you growing up, right? And where did you grow up?
Okay, so I grew up in a place called Fredericksburg, Virginia. It's like the most southern tip of Northern Virginia. So all of our parents mostly worked in D.C. for the federal government during like the Reagan and Bush years, but lived in suburbia of Virginia, like Virginia suburbs. So big yards, and it's like spend all weekend cutting grass and raking leaves.
Right.
But we had basements, and we had record collections and VHS and laser disc and all of that. So I was like a little league type of kid. Yeah. I also have to say I'm the youngest of all of the 80s babies.
Right.
So whether it's my brothers or my cousins, so I was always that little kid who was just tagging along with the older kids and picking up whatever they were into.
And I understood that coming up, because when you're the youngest, man, you tend to gravitate to what your brothers or cousins are throwing behind them, right? Like, oh, what's that? Oh, you had that in your head? I want that, right? It's like the hand-me-downs, but you value it a little bit more, right? Because your family was into it, and you're like, oh man, let me look at this. Let me examine this a little bit deeper. Who do you think were the people in your home who shaped your early worldview?
I definitely would have to say my dad. My dad is he was raised as a country boy from Georgia, got into the army, and then saw the world, studied art in Paris, and just traveled. And he said that he didn't want his sons to have to go into the military. He said that if you were going to go in the military, be by choice. He didn't, and his quote was, "I want you to see the world without Uncle Sam giving you a gun."
Come on.
And so with that, it just like opened up our minds. And he used his GI Bill when he came out to get a master's in art history, and then opened up an art gallery. So as a little kid, me and my brother are like just around a bunch of art. So we take our coloring books or whatever to the art gallery, and we're just sitting around, and my dad's dealing art. Right. And he was dealing art to a lot of the like local barbershops. So I got to see how he was doing business with other Black men.
Yes.
And so my dad being so global, but also saying you got to be rooted in community, because he was like, I can't forget where you come from. So he's like, I'm a country boy from Georgia. Right. I might be in DC, I might be in Virginia, I might look like I got it all together, but I still got to be with the people. And so he would sell art to the people. Now, the art gallery that he had focused on African and African-American art. So the art reflected us.
Right.
And so I would say he has the biggest influence. Also a big student of history.
Right.
His interests have always been into art, where mine was into music, but we would like find our way. And one thing about it was I love music videos growing up. And this is around the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, Desert Storm.
Okay.
And he would come home and he was like, well, you can watch Rap City with Joe Claire and Big Les. You can watch Rap City for an hour if you're going to watch CNN for an hour. So that's what we would do. So I would like watch all the rap videos. My first introduction to hip hop would have to be Father MC, Positive K, Chubb Rock, and Poor Righteous Teachers.
Come on.
And Rock This Funky Joint was probably the first rap song I knew the words to.
Right.
And I was in 5th grade. I was in preschool.
Right. I think about that sometimes too. What year were you born?
85.
85. I was born in 79, so I was probably a little bit older than you, right? But I know I was for sure, right, older than you. But Poor Righteous Teachers, that was a big thing for me. You know, my father was Haitian, right? So he didn't really let me listen to rap music, right? So I had to find the positive rap music, and that was one of them until he really listened to it. He was like, I don't think I like that either, right? But I was like, no, that is cool. You feel me? Like listen to it. So we sat and we listened to it. But you know, my uncle, he was a lawyer in Chester, Pennsylvania. He was more of, you know, that worldly man that allowed me to listen to. I remember the first time I ever heard KRS-One, right? Love's gonna get you, right? And that blew my mind, right? Because I was like, oh my God, this is hip hop. I love it, right? So
story, yeah.
And from that point on, I think I understood, but I didn't, because I went outside to the street, right? My father died when I was 12 years old. I went outside to the street. So I understand how important it is for a young black man to have another black man teach him the steps of manhood, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. When does storytelling grab you? When did that start calling you? Even if you didn't recognize it, right?
Yeah. I would say I probably didn't recognize it initially. I'm around a lot of people in the family. Like, I would say this: my family, they don't really have conversations. They just get together in the same room and exchange stories. And I'm listening, and I'm like, I'm seeing how you started, and I'm seeing how you're ending, and I see how you're like circling back and you're making something succinct. And then I would say, when it comes to hip hop, like, so you said Love's Gonna Get You. That's a great story. I would probably say Slick Rick.
Yes.
Definitely a big influence on me, because I was a little too young for, like, when he first came out with like The Show and Lottie Dottie and The Great Adventures. But then and probably even still too young for Behind Bars. But I would say, when The Show first came out, the documentary The Show, when Russell Simmons went to go visit Slick Rick, I would say when the radio shows would play like the old school stuff, they played Children's Story. And then I was like, okay, Slick Rick, the guy with the eye patch, Dana Dane, Dougie Fresh, the Get Fresh Crew, okay, trying to like get some of that understanding, Kango Crew and all that. And then I would say it wasn't until I had to say Raekwon and Ghost. Raekwon and Ghost kind of like telling you this is where they're getting a lot of their flavor from. And I'm a big Wu-Tang fan. When I say like I'm a hip hop head, I don't want to like overstate it, but I have a sleeve on my left arm. It's a collage of my favorite music.
Wow.
And it starts with Gil Scott-Heron, From the Wrist to the Elbow, goes up Stevie Wonder. Then it's like has the Mobb Deep Hennessy jersey, the De La Soul flower pot, the stick figures from the original Tribe Called Quest logo.
Yes.
Wu-Tang ice cream truck. Nas' third verse from One Love with him and the kid on the bench. And then I got a Jesus piece on the back, which is a tribute to Royal Flush Ice Down medallions. So a lot of that was like just like permeating my childhood. And so all the stories that people were telling through songs, or if people were giving you history. So you said KRS-One, You Must Learn. And being able to hear You Must Learn, probably from my daycare teacher, Miss Katrina, rest in peace. She put us on to like Boogie Down Productions as well as Public Enemy. In fact, I saw the Can't Trust It video at her house. So the way it worked, like in DC, because everyone's parents worked in DC, if the daycare closed at 5 and your parents weren't there, normally you would get penalized, and you had to pay like a little fine. But because Miss Katrina and my parents were cool, they set up some sort of deal. So if the daycare closed, me and my brother would go home with Miss Katrina, and then we get picked up from her house.
Wow.
So Miss Katrina one day, she took us to her house, but she made a pit stop by Taco Bell, got us some Taco Bell because we didn't eat fast food like that. So she got us Taco Bell, went to her house, watched some music videos, and I saw the Can't Trust It video. Now, fast forward, that was like 91, 92. Fast forward, 2007, I'm graduating from college. I'm down in Charlotte, North Carolina, visiting my aunt and uncle. And I go around the corner, I see my uncle has the Public Enemy Platinum Plat from Apocalypse 91 album. And I'm like, Uncle Tyrone, how do you have this? And he was like, well, I played on the album. my uncle Tyrone Jefferson played with the JBs,
Wow.
James Brown's house band. Right. And at the time, Def Jam didn't want to pay for so many samples. So they got members of the JBs to come in and play on songs. So they played on the Public Enemy album that I listened to as a kid.
Come on, man.
As well as going back to Cali from LL Cool J. So just like going back and forth with all this history, it's like, yo, this is here. It's right under my nose, even if I can't name it.
Right. How did that make you feel, right? To see that your uncle was a part of history in shaping, because, you know, Public Enemy was important to our culture at that time, right? How they had us thinking about the system and the way we were working outside of it and how we needed to work to get in it or to evade capture, right? How did that feel?
It was it's like that first time you discover that your favorite rap song has a sample that one of your old heads knows. So you both listen to the song, you're both nodding.
Right.
You might start to spit the verse.
Right.
They're about to start
off the beat.
The high note.
Right.
And so it was just like connecting that lineage to say, oh, okay. Like, so James Brown was like old head music for me. Until I started breaking down, okay, Diamond D got this from James Brown, and EPMD gets this from James Brown, and then you get this from over here, and then over this, you know, RZA was using this, and then you start knowing the band members. So Clyde Stubblefield or Maceo Parker or whoever, like even Boosie Collins started off with the JB. So you're like thinking, okay, now James Brown, Lewis Gordon. Then you say, well, let me bring a little forward, George Clinton. And you're starting to connect those dots. My real connection with, like, even with George Clinton was the fact that when I was 5 years old, I had a parakeet, like a little, you know, colorful bird.
Everybody had one. I had one too.
Right. Mine was named George Clinton because I saw George Clinton with the hair. My bird's going to be named George Clinton.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. I had one. My dad named them Romeo and Juliet, right? But you know, I had one. I had two, a male and a female, right? That's crazy. We're going to talk about HIV and AIDS in the era of Black America. You wrote an article, right? Let's talk about the article that you wrote in the publication that you wrote that for. Who was that for?
That was for Noisy, which was the music magazine, was like the music arm of Vice magazine.
Okay.
And that was like my first publication with Vice.
Okay.
And it was a way to commemorate the 20th anniversary of America's Dying Slowly.
Right.
And maybe a little bit of the backstory about my connection with that album,
please,
is that it came out in 96, so I had to be about 11 years old. And like I said, big Wu-Tang fan, Mobb Deep, Lost Boys fan. I feel like I can't say enough about my fandom of Lost Boys. My brother and I will always do that Mr. Cheeks Freaky Todd dance where you're just like going back and forth. And like Legal Drug Money is one of my favorite albums, tapes, CDs, classic albums. I listen to it often, especially the second part, the B-side. I listen to the B-side a lot,
right?
But I think the first introduction I had to America's Dying Slowly was the video with Lost Boys and Pete Rock, The Yearn.
The Yearn.
Already a Pete Rock fan from Pete Rock and CL Smooth, because who's not a big fan of the duo?
Who wasn't, right?
But I also would say, I have to admit, I'm a little too young for the creator, so I didn't know that Pete Rock rapped. I just thought he was good on the beats,
right?
Background vocals, but it was like CL Smooth. So I hear The Yearn, watch the video, and I'm like, okay, they're passing these things around. I don't really know. They're like pulling things out their pocket. I saw this in the Gin and Juice video. What is this? I don't really know what this is. And my older cousin's like, oh, these are condoms. Okay. And then I'm listening to maybe the last verse from Mr. Cheeks, and he was like, make sure you protect yourself. That shows that you respect yourself.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, these are just rhymes, right? These are just rhymes, or as like Chuck D said, these are just rhyming to be riddling, right? But as I get older, month after month, year after year, it comes to focus as I get older. I'm not 11 anymore. I'm like, wait, you're talking about safe sex.
Right.
You're talking about condom use.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I get America's Dying Slowly, and it has my favorite MCs on it. Common, Goody Mob, Organized Confusion, Chub Rock, Fat Joe, Sadat X, like the list goes on. So I just I love the album, and I'm always listening to it. Like every year, you just kind of revisit. Now, after college, I started volunteering at a free clinic in my hometown in Fredericksburg. This is when the recession, 2007, 2008, there was a recession, can't find a job. My mom was like, well, if you can't get a job, why don't you just volunteer?
Right.
So I volunteered at the free clinic, and I decided, hey, I want to go back to school and get a master's in public health. But I don't know what to write about from my grad school application essay. So I wrote about America's Dying Slowly.
Wow.
And I wrote about how my favorite rappers came together after Eazy-E's death and said, we want to do something for our community and our language to communicate HIV awareness. This isn't some sort of cheesy type of attempt. This is us talking to us.
Right.
So this is us talking boom bap, even thinking OC, Digging in the Crates, Fat Joe, Buck Wild are we're going to make songs to talk about HIV awareness for the Bronx and for Brooklyn and for that, that time. And like I said, I'm the kid from the suburbs of Virginia.
Right.
Yo,
let's get in it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I wrote my grad school application essay on America's Dying Slowly. 2 or 3 years later, I finished my master's, start working in the field. But then when 2016 comes up, I'm like, yo, this is the 20th anniversary. Let me see if I can write something. So I reach out, talk to Pharoah Monch, talk to T-Mo from Goody Mob. They totally cool. This is when you could just reach out to people on Twitter.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, just call me up.
Right.
And then I was able to put some words together, about 2,000 words about America's Dying Slowly. Now you fast forward 2019, I wrote a 15,000 word article. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please.
Where I talk about the whole, not just America's Dying Slowly, but the production company behind that album, Red Hot.
Red Hot.
Yeah, because Red Hot started in 1990. And they wanted to kind of message, because they were doing pop and they were doing other music genres, but they couldn't figure out, even did grunge and dance and techno, but they couldn't figure out how to get hip hop. So they did a project in 94 called Stolen Moments, where they put jazz artists with hip hop artists, ran to jazzmatazz. So it was you got the Last Poets and you got Diggable Planets, The Roots, Michelle Ndegeocello. They're all on this album, but it's not hitting the same way because they waited a little too late.
Right.
And so they're riding the jazzmatazz wave, but the sound has changed now. So you got more Redman, Wu-Tang, Mob Deep. It's kind of running the sound.
Absolutely.
So when 96 comes along, or 95, when Eazy-E dies, they're like, yo, let's put a plan together and make this happen. And they did. And yeah, I have to say, America's Dying Slowly is the reason why I have a master's in public health, the reason why I've been doing public health for 13 years and doing HIV, because I was able to see HIV not as this distant thing that was only affecting white gay men, but it was strong enough, even if I didn't know the science, it was strong enough for Mobb Deep to throw a song on there. It was strong enough for OC to do it. And even the HIV songs that weren't on America's Dying Slowly, when Queen Latifah got a song and Coolio got It's Too Hot, and TLC has Waterfalls. And I remember seeing Shaheem in the video. I was like, yo, Shaheem was in the TLC, as a little kid, you just fanning out. And so I definitely say America's Dying Slowly changed my life. And I wanted to make sure that some stuck-up school administrator, if you're going to accept me in your school, you're going to have to know about this album.
Yes. You need to know about this album. What stigmas or misconceptions do you remember being the strongest I want to say while you were writing this, because there are a lot of stigmas that are still in our community and misconceptions that are still live in our community. What do you think were the strongest when you were writing this article?
I would say that, first of all, HIV is a death sentence. So like if you are diagnosed with HIV, it's certain that you're going to die immediately. Right. The reality is it's inevitable that we're all going to die. But like due to like HIV meds and the advances in medicine, people are living a very long life. And folks who were diagnosed with HIV 10 and 20 and 15 years ago are living 20 and 30 years beyond their diagnosis date, where they're grandparents and great-grandparents, and they got a lot of grays in their beard. And just being able to like have living examples of folks, I think to me is so important to just be able to know that some old head is out here living his or her life and they're living with HIV, and just remembering like not only that they're HIV positive, but they're living with HIV, they're thriving, they're traveling with HIV, they're doing everything doing with HIV, and it's like just so important to see. So I would say that's one of the biggest misconceptions.
Absolutely. How did silence and shame shape our community, right? I want to talk about your community, right? Whether or not you experience knowing somebody with HIV and AIDS in your community in Fredericksburg. How did you deal with them, right? Were you like how did you deal with them, right?
Yeah, I would say this. I don't remember exactly how I was back then, but I did some work along my journey that tested me out. And so I'll give you an example. I had an uncle who I didn't know all that well, but from what they said in the family, he used needles. He uses syringes. He was doing drugs back when he was in the Army, and then when he came out, he couldn't kick it, so he was still using. And then he got sick, and then my cousin had like his last visit to see his father before he passed. So it was like, okay, I got an uncle who dies of AIDS complications in like 92, 93. So you have like the rumors, and like you're not really exactly sure. But I would say it took a couple of years. And then I was like, well, I'm shaking everyone's hand. And sometimes you wonder, but then you're doing enough and you're learning enough to be like, yo, I can shake everybody's hand. Right. And I'm not going to get HIV, but I might get the flu.
Right.
I might get strep throat, but I'm not going to get HIV.
Right.
And then, thinking I want to be mindful of the audience and stuff.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you this. One of my biggest tests, I was in Atlanta visiting some friends, and someone passed the blunt to me. And it was like, I took it and then did what I did.
And then later
but I was like, and I passed it to the next person. Right. And I was like, yo, because I know that HIV isn't transmitted through passing blunts.
Right.
And so when I think about stigma and shame and all of that, I had an opportunity to make some choices. Yeah. I could have said, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna pass. Right. Like I don't want to have anything to do with it because I know that you just passed me the blunt.
Right.
But then I'm thinking, like, I know better.
Right.
And with me knowing, right, because knowledge reigns supreme. So if I know, then I'm like, yo, I can do what I can do, and then I pass it to the next person like it's nothing. Right? Now the person who gets the blunt after me doesn't know if I'm living with HIV or not. Right? So they're taking that chance too.
Right.
And they could have said, well, Steven passed it to me. I don't want to take it.
Right.
But they didn't shame me. They took it because I passed it to them. So we just keep on passing it around.
That's
knowing full well that there's a risk passing blunts around, but it's not going to be HIV. It's going to be a good time.
A good time.
It's going to be
a great time, right?
Yeah, it's going to be coughing, but it's not going to be HIV.
Right. And that's That's real. Once you understand how you can get HIV, where it can come from, once you have these conversations with people that have the knowledge, right?
Mhm.
And I try to make sure when I have conversations, I want to talk to the people that have the knowledge and they can educate me and they can educate the listeners because I don't know everything,
Yeah.
right? I know some things, but not everything. I want to take you back when you were researching America's Dying Slowly.
Mhm.
What made America Dying Slowly such a historical, cultural moment, right? I know we're dealing with AIDS, but we're talking about heterosexual men, right?
Mhm.
Talking about AIDS when at that time in 96, like you said, it was mostly a gay disease, right? And why are we talking about that? And then you bring up the Easy E situation. So
Yeah.
give me that from you, please.
And I think that if memory serves me correct, it was Pharoah Monch who said something to this effect. He said when Easy E when it came out that Easy E was living with HIV, and then when he died, it sent a message to everybody in hip hop because Easy E was like the pinnacle, like the epitome, the quintessential gangster. And if Easy E could get it, because everybody knew his lifestyle. Everybody was like, "Yo, Easy gets the girls. Easy's out here in the streets. He's the man." And then that follows up with Magic Johnson. So you got like an all-star athlete, Magic Johnson. Then you get Easy E. Now makes it a reality at any of us in hip hop. And what they did was they said, okay, well, and so apparently the producers from Red Hot started calling these record companies and calling managers, and people started responding and saying, I'm gonna see
I'm
what
gonna
I
do
can
it.
do.
Right.
And so they hit the studio and they said, well, I got some beats. Let me see what I can do. And one of the things that's so important about America's Dying Slowly is that all of these MCs contributed exclusive songs to this compilation. For instance, like De La Soul's The Hustle. That's not on Stakes is High.
Right.
That is a song specifically for America's Dying Slowly.
Wow.
Goody Mob, they did the song Blood. Now you get a snippet, like an interlude on the Soul Food album, but you get the full song on America's Dying Slowly. So it's almost like one of those like DJ mixtape exclusives where it's like, I'm gonna give you a full song. I'm not gonna put on my album. I'm gonna put it on your project. Do do with it what you will, and to spread this awareness. And like 8 Ball MJG's Listen to Me Now, which also samples Goody Mob Cell Theory. They don't have that on the album. It's only on America's Dying Slowly. And so all these exclusives that you can only get through America's Dying Slowly is so important. And another thing is that it's nationwide. It's like bi-coastal, but you got the East Coast artists, you got the West Coast artists, you got the folks from the down south, and you got Midwest people. You got Common representing Chicago, you got Domino on the West Coast, Mac Mall. And then on the East Coast, you got Wu-Tang, Mobb Deep. And in fact, when I go back to listen to it, it almost sounds like the album wasn't produced by Red Hot, but by Loud Records.
Right.
Loud Records is one of my favorite record companies, but it's like it sounds almost like it could be a Loud Records compilation, not Red Hot.
So when you think about the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did the fans, and the culture, how did they react to this album?
I would say because I was only 11,
right?
I probably couldn't even answer that accurately.
Right.
But I will tell you this: every time someone throws that album up on Instagram, or if I go on YouTube comments, when you read through the comments, everybody's talking about how important that album was. It's a sleeper nowadays because you kind of had to be there.
Right.
And I always encourage people to download it, stream it wherever you can.
Right.
But I think it was one of those things, going back to stigma and shame and what that was. Those artists made songs that people like, it could stick to your ribs and people would like the actual songs. They like the actual album, but it may not have been something that was a conversation starter on a wide scale. but I can imagine a couple of guys, a couple of people, and whether it was a cipher or they just kicking it at the barbershop. I think they got something from that album that has stayed with them. And to think about how Lost Boys and Pete Rock made this incredible song. And in fact, going back to exclusives, the Yearn is on the Legal Drug Money album, but it doesn't have Pete Rock's verse on it. So you had to go to America's Dying Slowly to get the full exclusive version of these songs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, that message stayed with me as an 11-year-old, getting older and being like, oh, that's a condom. Oh, I like girls. Oh, there's sex. Oh, and it just keep on adding up. But I still have in my head, respect yourself, protect yourself. I still have in my head, what's the song? No rubbers, no backstage pass. Oh, like I have some of these messages still in my head. Domino's song, what is it? Sport your raincoat. All these different things that are staying with me, just like Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One, Jimmy. So it's just like all these things that we were just playing with, like listening to and enjoying, stays in the head, and now you're using it to live your life.
Do you think the artist knew how important this moment would become, or how important in our history, right? That it was a pen in it, right?
I doubt if they knew the history. They were thinking about history,
right?
But I do think that they were thinking about the sense of urgency.
Right.
It's like, yo, we're living in a time where we have to say something. And this is after We Are the World.
Right.
This is after all like the farm aid stuff. And it's finally a chance for people in hip hop to talk to other people in hip hop. And it was like, we're not doing anything cheesy. We got our own producers. We got our own beats. We're making our own things, and we're talking to our own people. And I think it was like, yo, if I can save a life, let me save a life.
Right.
And you weren't going to make a bunch of money from having this type of message.
No, you weren't.
But you were doing something. To me, it was just like boom, bap, public service announcements. But people were doing it, and I'm forever grateful.
Yes.
You know, even if I might, I don't know. I mean, I'm a fan of most of the people on the album, but I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. Biz Markie, rest in peace, is on the album. And with Biz Markie passing, I think about his legacy. And it's not just about Juice Crew, and it's not just about everything he did after that, whether it was emceeing or DJing and being a record collector, but it's just like, yo, Biz Markie used his celebrity to save lives.
Yes, he did.
Chubb Rock, as you know, I think about like my introductions to hip hop, and you're talking about like your father and I like this, I don't like this, and I'm thinking about like the first MC that I liked, his name was Wise Intelligent. But shortly after that was Chubb Rock.
Right.
And you know how smart Chubb Rock is.
Right.
As well as Special Ed and everyone that was down with Howie T. And being able to soak up what Chubb Rock was saying. And I'm like, oh, wow. And so I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that there was a time and place where people said, we can't let Eazy-E die in vain.
Right.
We have to take that energy and communicate it. Because NWA wasn't in a position to make a song about HIV at the time. But they did. They took that energy, they channeled it. And then some 11-year-old listened to it. And then today I work at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine because
of that.
I heard that album.
Right. Man, like this story is amazing. And what it represents for the heterosexual man, right? I think we might need to come out with another album, right? Need to hit Rick up and get them to talk about what AIDS is doing today, and make sure our current rappers. Do you think if we were to put the current rappers that are out today back then, that the same thing would have happened, or it would have been something different?
I think it would be something different, and I was always wondering about that. And my man Tim Hotep kind of like, he said something to me that had me thinking a little differently. And you can see it differently in all these other like sectors of history. When you go back and listen to comedy, you go back and look at politics,
Right.
the individuals that we remember their names, whether we know it or not, they were attached and members of organizations. People were members of the Black Panther Party or SNCC or the NAACP. They were a part of a larger group of people that held them accountable.
Right.
I think those organizations have changed. When you look at hip hop, you got certain crews that might be affiliated with street organizations, but those street organizations don't have, I would say, a consistent track record of doing community-oriented type of things.
Right.
And so the onus isn't to represent, say, a 10-point plan like the Black Panthers.
Right.
So I would say that a lot of the people who have made it big in the music industry, I think they've made it because they're propped up by industry, not organizations that are working in conjunction with the industry. So you look at Public Enemy. Public Enemy wasn't just coming out of just like we're Public Enemy.
Right.
It's like, nah, Flavor Flav and Chuck D were in the breakfast program with the Panthers.
Right.
Professor Griff was a member of the Nation of Islam. The S1Ws were Fruits of Islam. So you're connected to something that's larger than you. So that's informing you. So when you hear Rebel Without a Pause, or you hear all of these different songs from Public Enemy, it's like they're not just representing Long Island, they're representing a tradition that predates them and that they got to go home and be accountable for.
Yes, they do.
So I don't think that the artists today, the popular ones, I don't think the popular ones know enough. I don't think they're connected enough. I also don't see there's a sense of urgency because people aren't dying the same way they were dying.
Absolutely.
Right? And we saw 2020, the popular rappers of 2020 weren't making songs about the pandemic either.
They weren't.
There were a few people that Currency, who's not super popular, right? But he definitely has his following. I'm a fan of Currency.
Right.
He has a song on an album because he's got so many albums at this point. Drops an album every week. But I think the song is called Green and Gold. And in that song, he's talking about being in New Orleans, which was a hot spot for COVID at the time. And he's talking about how he can't dap up his friends. But he's talking to his son who was just born. And he's like, I hope that we live long enough where you can be a regular kid and you can dap up your boys. And I miss seeing my friends because we're stuck in the house.
Right.
But I didn't see any of that. I don't want to name names, but I didn't see that coming from a lot of the popular artists of 2020. And even now, talking about long COVID or talking about cancer. People talk about mental health like they talk about anxiety because anxiety is a hot word. It's a buzzword.
Right.
But you're not telling people to go to a therapist. You're just like, yo, I got anxiety. I take pills.
Right.
I drink a lot. I party a lot.
Right.
Okay, what else? And people don't seem to have that. But I'm also curious about I'm curious about how we can remember the people who were brave, who were tied into community and said, I'm gonna look out for my people. Right. I don't think Organized Confusion was like super popular nationwide, though they were signed to a record label in LA. They were like mostly New York artists coming out of Queens. But I'm trying to imagine Prince Poe and Pharoah Monch saying, yo, I'm gonna do this for the people I know in Queens. Right. And then Domino saying, I'm gonna do this for the people in LA. And also Domino did this after Sweet Potato Pie. So he's out of this world and saying, I'm gonna do this. Coolio is out of this world with like Gangsta's Paradise and says, I'm gonna do a song.
Absolutely.
And just thinking about all these people, like Goody Mom from Atlanta, all these people are saying, let me just talk to the people in my community. Let me talk to the people in my neighborhood because I'm seeing the devastation right here in my neighborhood. But I'm gonna make a song. I'm gonna go into organized noise studios. I'm gonna go into the dungeon and I'm gonna make something that could be not only for Atlanta, but something for the world.
For the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely dope. And you jump right into the next question. I was going to talk about, the conversations. What conversations should black men be having right now, right? That we still avoid. And you were talking about, depression and mental health. Anything else?
Yeah, I think Black men need to slow it down and be more concerned about each other's wellness and well-being.
Yes.
For instance, when was your last meal? Was it good? Was it nutritious? What were you eating? You know, when's the last time you went to the doctor's office?
Right.
A lot of times I feel like we don't know what's going on with our bodies until whatever's going on with our bodies has really like crossed over the tipping, and now it hurts.
Yep.
And we're not doing enough around hydration. Like, bro, like come over and drink some water. I remember when I was in high school, people would come over and it's like, you give them a small glass and get Kool-Aid. I'm not going to give you the tall glass because you don't live here and you're drinking up all the Kool-Aid. But like, how often do we think about, yo, I'm hosting, you're here in my space, here's some water. Right. You could use some water. We could all use some water. So thinking about wellness, well-being, asking questions about like, yo, how you feeling? Not just being satisfied with I'm chilling, I'm cool, you know, but like you good, right? Yeah, I'm good. And then if you are in a space to open up a little bit more to say, you know, this weekend was kind of tough on me, you know, like I had to go to a funeral, you know, I saw my man's little brother, and I just had to, you know, and being able to hold that space for each other. I think it really is rooted in care, you know, because at one point we were boys and then now we're men, but eventually as we see one by one, we're going to be up out of here and it's going to be of old age, hopefully, but it could be a stroke. It could be a heart attack. It could be liver disease. It could be something else, kidney disease. What can we do while we're here to create longevity for each other? Like, yo, bro, you eating vegetables? Tell me it's more than just the tomato and lettuce on the hamburger.
Please.
You know? And it's like, yo, what are we doing to like look out for our sugar intake? We still got to live. I'm not saying that you have to live a life where you can't have any sort of vice. But what does that look like in terms of balance and care and well-being? Because we got to be here for the next generations.
Somebody
we got to be here as long as possible to support other people in our community, because they just can't be about us as Black men. But if we strengthen us as Black men, then we have a better expansive view on how we can show up for other people. And thinking about consent, thinking about sex, thinking about wellness, thinking about care, thinking about hospital visits, thinking about health insurance, thinking about supporting community clinics for folks that may not have a job that connects them with health insurance, but maybe you're able to get on the marketplace and get health insurance, whatever that looks like. Yo, bro, what can I do to help you be here longer? And even just communicating that, like, yo, I love you and I want to see you here for your next birthday. You know, so what does that look like? That might look like we're going to drink less soda. That might be that we're going to hang out, but not at the bar this Friday. We're going to do something that's more than just the party and the BS, but it's going to be something that's going to strengthen us, empower us so we can be present, so we can continue to work through our issues. Because many of us as men have issues dating back to childhood. And we still need time, and we still need the resources and tools to work through those problems so we don't repeat those cycles for the younger generations.
Absolutely. Man, where do you think we are today in terms of HIV awareness and education?
That's a tough question. I think that there are small pockets in various communities that are in the know. So like the Black LGBTQ community, I think they have more of they have an understanding, because I think that the messaging just kind of like stays, like people are targeted, right? They're like, oh, you're LGBTQ, you're queer, we're going to just target you. We're going to target you. And then I think Black women who have sex with men or Black straight women get the message around PrEP. There's been a lot of marketing campaigns to say, you know, you can get on pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is a pill regimen that you take every day that drastically reduces your chance of getting HIV. Over 90% chance of getting HIV. But then when it comes to straight black men, it's still like
Yeah.
the onus is on women.
Right.
You know, it's like, yo, she dirty, or don't mess with her, or blah,
Right.
blah, blah, rather than saying, yo, bro, protect yourself.
Please.
Your wellness is paramount. So what can you do? We're not having conversations about testing. We're not having conversations about condom use. It seems like right now the conversation is rooted around maybe pregnancy, but not like it's really just focused on the pregnancy aspect of it. It's not about raising children. It's not about supporting people making those decisions. It's just like a pregnancy or pregnancy prevention.
I know for a fact I never thought about that. Right. I was running the streets wild. Right. I have 8 children. Right. And I share those 8 children with 5 women. Right. So I didn't love myself, honestly, right? And I think that's where it starts, right? Having a love of yourself. And typically that starts from mom and dad, right? You know, rubbing your head and being there and supporting your dreams and letting you know how special you are. And mine was kind of broken, right? So I was looking for that love in the community, and I wasn't protecting myself. I had a conversation with my cousin about, I want to say about 6 weeks ago, and I was like, yo, man, thank God, bro. Like, because it only takes one time, right? And out of all of the other times, if I could just pick one time, it's like, oh man, like how many one times did I have, right? Where I wasn't protecting myself or protecting my partner or protecting another person that I was having sex with. So it's like love of self stops all of that, right? So that's what I'm doing now, right? I'm loving on myself. I'm making sure I'm making the right decisions. I'm making sure I'm in the right rooms. I'm trying to find all the information to bring back to my people, right? So if I'm holding myself accountable, you feel me? Like this is what it looks like. I'm giving it to y'all. So now you spread it out amongst your friends, and hopefully your friends say, you know what? No, I love myself too. You feel me? I want to tell someone else, and then so on and so forth. And it's just amazing when you start to see it work in our community, when we start to begin to have these conversations about what it looked like back in the day versus what it can look like now. You feel me? With everything that we're dealing with in the future, with the president being the way the president is, with Congress and everything making decisions for women, right? And then also making decisions for us about where we place ourselves and how we view ourselves. So I think self-love is highly important. And I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for this interview.
I mean, if I could, like,
Go
sorry to
ahead,
interrupt,
man.
but
Do
I
your
would say
thing. Do your
I want to
thing.
thank you because your example and what you're doing is also setting the example for your kids.
Right.
And so you are not only talking, but you're demonstrating through action, through example, so your kids can learn, right? And then your kids' friends are also paying attention.
Right.
And then it just like expands and expands and
that way.
expands. And then we get to right some wrongs, and we can break some cycles, and we can start new normals. And those new normals are looking out for that self-love and strengthening ourselves and our communities.
So lastly, what message do you want our people to walk away from this conversation with?
I would say care for each other, care for yourself, but care for each other. Do what you can to provide care, and provide care could be just the basic essentials: food, clothes, and shelter. If you have a little extra, share what you can share. If you got some clothes sitting in the closet that you're not wearing, pass them on to someone else who can. If you got a little extra food this Thanksgiving or whenever you have extra plates, make sure someone else gets those plates. If somebody doesn't have health insurance, maybe you can drive them to the clinic. What does it look like to say, yo, just do a checkup? It doesn't have to be HIV, but it could be blood pressure. It could be cholesterol. It could be something, but providing that care for each other, especially around health, because health is wealth. Making sure that people feel comfortable coming to us to talk about things, because someone may want to come talk to you about short-term memory. Somebody may want to come to you about long-term memory. Someone may want to come to you about blood pressure. Someone may want to come to you about diabetes. What information do you have? What credible sources can you share? And what resources can you share?
Come on, man. Come on. Stephen, I appreciate you, man. I want to say thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you for this interview. It's much appreciated. You feel me? And anytime you want to come back and hold anything, man, hit me up. Let's do it. Let's talk, man. Cause I'm just on the hip hop head, right? You know, you
Oh yeah.
talk about your arm, your sleeve. I'm like, my tattoos don't have that much meaning, right? Sometimes I just wish I was like I said, that love of self. So last year I had lost my mother, and I think that's what sent me in a tizzy, right? Losing someone that loved me so much, right, and forgave me and was honest with me. The day before she died, I had called her and I was like, "Mom, I was working two jobs at the time in the radio station. I can't do this, man. They pulling me in so many directions. I'm thin. I need a break." And she was like, "I'm so proud of you," right? She said, "I'm so proud of you." I said, "Why are you proud of me?" She's like, "Just what you've been able to do, right? You stop running the street, you stop." And I didn't think the radio station would last that long, right? I didn't think it's been 7 years since you started it, right? And I'm so proud of you because you didn't give up, right? And I know you're not making a whole bunch of money. That's why you got the two jobs. That's why you work here, but your radio station is changing the community, right? It's holding people accountable. It's holding your leadership accountable. You always talk about, because I got high blood pressure, right? I went to the doctors and said I was pre-diabetic, so I got to talking about that. Like, how important is it for black men to go to the doctors regularly, right?
Yeah.
Every 3 months, you go quarterly and get checked up, right? Make sure you get your blood work done, right? Thanks to Dr. Kristen Motley, right? She got me because I had two strokes, right?
Mm.
So I'll be like, sometimes my head be pounding. I'll be like, man, what? Like, what are you trying to tell me? What am I trying to get? So I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So it is important for us to value our health, but you also have to value yourself, right? You
Yeah.
have to love yourself and care enough about yourself to care enough about anybody else, right? So I just want to thank you for taking the time out to have this conversation with me. Where can people find that article? Where can people find, America's Dying Slowly, right? Is it on Apple Music?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah. America's Dying Slowly is available on Apple Music. Just type out America's Dying Slowly. They'll probably say like various artists.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get to the album, you can download the whole album from there.
Mm-hmm.
It's also available on YouTube if you want to just like find some snippets just to kind of, and
Yeah.
then redhot.org, redhotorg.com, redhot.org. If you go there, they have all of the albums that they've put out over the last 30 something years. So you can listen to small snippets, like 30, 60-second snippets of every project that they've ever put out,
Wow.
especially America's Dying Slowly,
Wow.
including that 1994 album, Stolen Moments.
Right.
And then the Vice Noisy piece, you could probably find that on Noisy. That's noisey.com. And Noisy's under Vice. So you might be able to type in Vice and, America's Dying Slowly, and that article should come up.
Yeah, I truly appreciate you. I truly appreciate you taking the time out to do this with me. My daughter keeps coming in here and messing with me. Thank you. But any other articles you've written, right? What anything else that you have going? Because I see you and I'm thinking, I see your microphone in front of the camera, right? You got a podcast out, right? What's going on with that?
Nah. No, I don't have a podcast. I just like sometimes the computer is janky, so I got the. I actually bought this because I did some narration on a documentary that I did a couple of years ago. So I was like, well, I'll just keep the microphone handy to the, But yeah, I have a documentary that I did a couple of years ago called Granddaddy's Roles, where I did a documentary. I had a film crew watching my grandfather. My grandfather was drafted into the Korean War because he was a black soldier. They kept him in the kitchen. But while he was in the kitchen, he learned how to bake. And so he learned how to bake all these different kinds of breads. So after the war, for about 50 years, he was baking different kinds of breads for family events, church homecoming service, or a funeral, or the VFW. And he had severe arthritis and carpal tunnel after a couple of years, and I was like, Granddaddy, give me one more chance. Let me get a film crew and let's go in the kitchen and make these rolls one more time. And so I got to kind of tell his life story through his baking. So from his hands to my hands, sharing that family legacy. And so it's on YouTube. It's like Stephen Hicks Presents Granddaddy's Rolls.
Can you make the rolls?
Not as well as his, but you know, they come out edible.
Right. They're edible. They just don't have that taste. Same thing for me. Sweet potato pies. My grandmother made sweet potato pies. I try, but I don't try as often as I should. Right. And I get that. Right. Man, Stephen, I appreciate this interview, man. I appreciate you taking the time. Right. I want you to think about doing one of those hip hop head podcasts, right, where you're talking about your arm tattoo. You got to cover that, man, because that's important. And a lot of people would like that. A lot of people would like that, right? This has been another episode of the Cultivating Mature Positivity podcast. I want to thank my guest, Stephen Hicks, man. He is a writer. He's an author. He's a film director. Listen, check him out. Find him. Search him up. America's Dying Slowly. Look that up, right? And listen, we need these conversations more and more, right? We need to know what's happening in our past so we know what not to do in our future, right? Or which way to go. I want to thank everybody for joining in. I want to thank our guest, Stephen Hicks. Stephen, anything you want to say before we get up out of here?
Thank you all for listening, and thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate just having the opportunity to be here. So thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm gonna get you to come back because I really that hip hop head situation. I got a couple brothers in the community that are in the, not me as much, but a lot of brothers that are deep in hip hop, right? And want to talk about where it went and how it's moving now and where it's at and how we can kind of bring it back to just being grounded again, because we're flighty with everything that we're doing. It's all about whatever it's about, and it's not about anything, right? So thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you. And yeah, man. CMPRadio.net, man. This is the Cultivating Mature Positivity podcast. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and mess with the page, man. CMPRadio.net. Peace.